Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's web conference. Today's session is being recorded on behalf of the Microsoft Corporation. If you do not consent to being part of the recorded session, please disconnect your line at this time. Attendees may access the web conference recording via a link that will be delivered within 24 hours post-conference. To learn more about the ways you can participate in today's event, please click on the Messages button in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. And we encourage you to use the Messages panel at any time to ask questions regarding content or to request support. To do so, please click on the Messages button at the bottom of your screen, type your question into the white text box, and click Send. Your question will appear under comment pending until someone responds. Your feedback is important. At the end of the session, a survey URL will appear on the left side of the screen. Simply click on the survey URL, enter your email, and select the appropriate responses. And thank you in advance for your support. If you experience any technical difficulties during today's web conference, please press F5 to refresh your console. And if you're still having issues, please send a message and I'll be happy to help you resolve the issue. Thank you for your patience during these announcements. One moment, please, while I start the recording. Welcome to today's web conference. Migrate your analytics solutions to Azure faster with lower TCO and less risk. I'd like to turn it over to your first presenter, Rafael Asiano, Director Partner Strategy, Analytics, and Big Data for Microsoft. Rafael, you have the floor.
Thank you, Kim, and welcome everyone. Thanks for spending your time with us this morning. Today we're here to talk about migrating analytics solutions to the Microsoft Cloud. And that is important because over the last few years that we've been working with partners in the advanced analytics space, we've discovered that the #1 priority is to deliver industry solutions to enterprise customers. And the vehicle to deliver these solutions is obviously deploying it to the cloud. However, bringing all these strategic partner intellectual property to the cloud could be complex. It could require substantial application development, rewriting, and configuration that's costly, or it could require substantial investments in development and test environments for both partners and customers. It is super important that to Microsoft's our #1 priority and partner strategy to ensure that all these partner solutions come to the Azure cloud with as minimal friction as possible and the least possible cost and effort to our partners. In order to do that, we've partnered with several independent software vendors that have breathtaking tools that can enhance the value of our cloud in order to help you do just that. And that is what we are today with Current. We think, and you're seeing it, recent developments as we see from the analysts how our Azure cloud is becoming the most highly regarded in its ability to provide an advanced analytics platform. And now an AI platform. However, we think this agility that you can get when bringing your IP to our cloud and enrich it with advanced analytics services, it's very important to you. We see other benefits like the global geographic coverage, the ability to be more granular in the regulatory compliance geographically, and appealing to a larger customer base. Those are things that are important to you as well. So we think, if we somehow help you take that IP and automate an important part of the migration project, that goes directly to your bottom line, because you don't have to worry a lot about the initial phases of a migration. You can focus more in bringing customers along. And it's with that I wanted to open this and introduce Current, which is, strategic provider in the cloud automated migration space that's now developing important assets on the analytics space in order to help you do these migrations. And with that, I'm going to hand over to Shafi Sayed. Shafi, can you take the floor?
Thank you, Rafael. Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending this webinar. This is Shafi Sayed, CTO, Current Technology. We'll be going over the whole process of migration, particularly for analytics applications in this webinar. To get started, just want to introduce Current. I think what you see is there are multiple areas that we are focusing on, primarily on migrating applications. We have our own different approaches to do that. So you see migration tools have been around for a long time. There are a lot of lift and shift tools available out there. And during the course of this presentation, you will see there are multiple approaches to assessing application as well as migrating them to the cloud. And we'll cover them in due course. What we see here is whenever you have the challenge of taking a group of applications that you work with your enterprise customers or with your ISVs, you're more looking at how is it better in multiple fronts, starting with is it better in productivity and profitability for your organization? And also you're looking at the areas where you can add significant value to your customer with a more intelligent form of migration. So that is what we will be covering in this webinar. Now, what Current offers to you is a platform. It's a complete integrated platform that actually takes you through the entire journey from assessment all the way to migration and beyond. And this platform now is available to you as a service that you can actually present this migration as a service to your customers and then help them through the process of migration. Now, what we do as a company, just want to identify the three areas that we clearly focus on. So one is the analysis of applications. This is centered primarily on looking at the workloads, assessing the infrastructure, doing a discovery, and coming up with several scenarios that you could actually utilize and propose to your customers purely from a strategy building perspective, advising them on how they can actually get their applications to the cloud or their entire data center to the cloud. The next that we focus on is beyond the assessment, how do you actually migrate these applications to the cloud? And that works completely towards how you provision resources on the cloud, come up with the optimization scenarios, and also the ability to perform the right methods of migration and then the right setup on the cloud. And finally, we also focus on SaaS enablement. So we have the platform which can take an existing application, SaaS enable, and then deploy and manage them on the cloud. Now, in this webinar, we are purely focusing on the first two aspects of what we do, which is the analysis, assessment, and migration to the cloud, which we call as the cloudification. Now, when you look at the migration, there are several stages. So I want to walk you over some of the critical stages as we see when we work with different partners of ours. Here you start with the analysis, which primarily is discover the infrastructure, discover the applications, assess, and give them a priority list of how they can migrate to the cloud. So once that is presented, then you'll actually have a selected set of applications or a set of VMs or servers that you want to migrate. Here you want to come up with more optimization scenarios. So before you actually migrate, you want to find out what you can optimize against. What choices do you have? Do you want to bring in past services, or do you want to re-architect the system to leverage the capability of the cloud? So that is focused on the optimization. Now, as you do the optimization, then you actually perform the actual migration, so which means provisioning of the resources, provisioning of the hybrid environments, or even provisioning of the past capability on the cloud. And then once you're migrated, then you have the challenge of monitoring them or managing these applications. Now, when you look at the entire picture, what is interesting is the benefits that you want to realize, could come from multiple sources. So one is, if you can effectively reduce the time for migration, then you're actually leveraging quite a bit, that you have actually reduced the cost of migration. In fact, it's number of resources reduced, as well as the time taken is compressed so that you can deliver more value to your customers. So our tool provides the ability to do this in a more rapid manner. And then also, as the number of migration tasks increase, when you look at it from that perspective, do you want to add more headcounts? You want to add more cloud architects? Bring more experts to come and advise the customers, or at least the people who can run these migration tasks. So you want to see, from a resource perspective, as you double the number of applications that you want to migrate or resources that you want to add, so you kind of look at what kind of cost reduction that you can get with the number of resources being added. And finally, do you need to maintain a whole suite of tools? What we hear often when we work with partners is, to carry out a migration task, I think you need to pull together a lot of different tools. You need to maintain these tools. You got to have the teams to have the expertise to run these tools, and then come up with the right connections and the mechanism and the process flows to get the entire job done. All this is reduced significantly with a single platform that we have. So in essence, what you're looking at is risk minimization through complete automation, and then how you actually see a reduction in the overall cost when you're actually taking up migration tasks. And then when you look at the cloud, is there any ability that you can actually leverage more of the cloud as you're migrating, such that you increase the value of the entire process? And at the same time, you want to get involved with a system that is more adaptive and more learning from that perspective. So you need a system that learns the process of migration, learns the workloads, learns the ability to migrate, and that is something that you are actually going to focus on, so that you're able to come up with a very flexible mechanism to actually suit your need, and then come up with all the other benefits such as reduction in cost and risks that you can present to your customers. Now, when you look at the entire process, first thing is, how do you get started? So Surpass is a product that we have, and it is structured for migration as a service. So we call it the Surpass Mass. Now, as you get started, this is the entire process flow. Now, as a partner, the way that you would get started is onboard yourself onto the platform, and it actually gives you multiple capabilities that you can come in as a new partner, and then do the custom branding. So we have the ability to brand it such that you can call this as your own migration as a service. You can rebrand it with a new name. We have several SIs who are actually using our product under the covers, and they have a new nomenclature to actually present the migration as a service as their own. So you can do that very well with this platform. So once you are able to get to the custom branding that you can actually provide, now you're ready to start onboarding your enterprise customers onto the platform. So you get started by creating their account, onboard them, and then you can get started with assessing their applications. So now the tool supports even on your branded onboarded environment. You can actually have multiple applications that can be assessed. And once the applications are assessed, now you're able to provide the advisory all the way up to PaaS capability that you can leverage out of the cloud. And once you've done that, the customer agrees to start the migration. Now you can actually get going with the optimizations and migration. So all these capabilities are part of the Surpass Mass, which is already available on Azure. You can sign up and then get going, and then start the process of working with your customers almost instantly. Now, with this, I want to talk about how the entire scheme of things works. Now, when you've already signed up and you've actually created your account and now you're ready to go to your customers, so I want to kind of outline the approach that we actually take and the flow of the product that actually works. Given a set of servers or VMs that you have that you are assessing on your customer environment, the essence is the ability to scan first. Now, the scanning is actually done by what we call as an adaptive learning system. It is based out of a knowledge base, and it ties directly into the process of scanning as well as the process of migration. Now, having a learning system is very critical because you will see a lot of new workloads that you do not know what they are, right from recognition to how to deal with the workloads when it needs to be migrated. What kind of strategies or alternative strategies for each workload that you can apply. All this needs to be a part of a system that adapts, and that is the reason we put in a knowledge base that you can successively improve upon, not just by working with us, that we can actually add more and more capability, which we continuously do on a release-to-release basis, or even asynchronously. We apply a lot of knowledge and improve it as we see more applications being analyzed. You can also do that by growing this knowledge base from a learning perspective. Now, once you have that in place, you're able to look at the different workloads, create a map of those workloads, and now these workloads can now be presented in different forms where you can see different what-if scenarios that you can assess the application with. Not necessarily it has to go and follow the same topology as it is installed, but now that you're migrating to the cloud, you have better opportunity, better strategies, better options that you can exercise, and the tool provides you with different scenarios. So once you're able to look at these scenarios and different topologies that you can make recommendations to your customers, then you map them to the cloud resources, to the fundamental unit that you can actually use for migration. And then you can initiate the process of migration, which we call a shift. So the shift primarily focuses on not just one way of moving applications to the cloud, but there are multiple strategies. I'll talk that in a moment in the following slides. So you have the option to start with a shadow shift, which is purely lift and shift, and then all the way to a more intelligent form of shifting, which is a smart shift, where you can change the entire architecture of the deployed system as it goes to the cloud, or you can actually do a PaaS shift, where you can migrate workloads straight to the PaaS on the cloud rather than onto the IaaS. Now, all this are encompassed within the ServPaaS environment. You can actually exercise these flows and looking at what exactly is being scanned, what exactly is being analyzed. The tool not just scans the hardware, the network, or the operating system, but it also looks at the entire application stack. So this purely focuses on the application, the software, and the stack, and the different components that are required, such as the database, framework, services, interface. Even in certain cases, we even look at the bytecode of the applications, that we can actually look at the binaries and see if we can extract any information out of the application that needs to be migrated that could be helpful in making decisions. So this is what happens during the process of scanning. This normally takes anywhere between 5 to about 15 minutes to scan a server, and it is very rapid, and you can actually line these up in parallel that actually can be analyzed. Again, all this operates out of the knowledge base and the rules for scanning. And then what you do is go through a process of analysis that actually gives you a multi-level analysis capability, all the way from the workload analysis to looking at the topology, making decisions on the topology, all the way to coming up with the heat maps, looking at any PaaS features that actually can be recommended. Then look at business and operations factor analysis. So this is very interesting that you can not only do once, but you can do successive approximation to actually come up with a better refinement of what you do until you actually get to the point that you choose one that you can go and start the process of migration. Now, as far as how you scan, there are mechanisms available for an agent-based versus agentless scanning that you can exercise. All this operate out of a very secure environment where the data integrity is protected. And also it is available for audit purpose as to what happens at any point in time. Your customer can see the information that was exchanged between ServPaaS while it is actually scanning the environment. All this is available. Now, I'll go through a demo where we can see the different aspects of the scanning and analysis. So here, focusing on the analysis, there are different areas that we look at purely from the perspective of giving you a perspective of how information is analyzed and how it is presented to you so that you can make decisions. The first is the feasibility. The feasibility is structured primarily for the initial decision making related to prioritization. You have a group of applications. Now you want to look at these applications, see which one you want to pick first and migrate. And making such decisions in a very rapid manner is what you actually get in very quick feasibility assessment. So once you've done this assessment, then you actually get onto a more operational aspect of analysis where you're looking at workloads, coming up with the different topologies that you want to recommend against. This is purely to appeal to your customer base where there are technical folks who need to be convinced on the right strategy to be adopted. So the tool provides you with that ability to integrate within the whole structure. Now, as well as now you want to get to the cost or the modeling that you actually want to utilize so that it can be compared against different scenarios. So this is purely from a business perspective. And then we've also added a kind of a future strategy that you can propose to your customer. So in some cases, it becomes important that you actually have a continuous tool chain that is available all the way from your initial assessment of applications, moving them onto the cloud, looking at how you take care of the business factors all the way to getting those applications as SaaS. So kind of give you the breadth of multiple dimensions that you can assess the application and make a presentation to your customers. So the tool gives you all the dashboards and the heat maps, including the cost analysis that you can actually use, giving you a lot of guidance and also coming up with different choices of architectures that you can actually look at, including the workload analysis that you could actually utilize. Now, I'll go through a demo and then show you these capabilities. But before that, want to touch upon the migration aspect. So what do you have at your disposal? So migration is one interesting idea that when you look at lift and shift, if you question beyond the lift and shift, are there any intelligent forms of migration? Then you can actually look at multiple possibilities here. So what you see at the lower end, the complexity of the migration is centered around packaging the entire application as is and then moving straight to the cloud. Sometimes you're packaging the entire server as is and then migrating them to the cloud. So this we call as a shadow shift, the simplest form of migrating applications to the cloud. So you want to go a little beyond that, then you'll be looking at a smarter mechanism where you look at the architecture, its workloads, and then come up with a completely new deployment that you want to get to the cloud with. Bring in more redundancy, bring in more efficiencies, and then now you can actually move up the chain in the complexity that you probably want to look at, the past capabilities that are available that actually gives you a lot more redundancy as well as scalability right off the bat, rather than you taking care of these through multiple VMs or multiple deployments of the same system. So those are the things that all can be leveraged. In fact, when you get to the past shift, now you can actually come up with more mechanism, particularly in the data science stream of things. You have multiple stacks that you can look at, and now you can migrate this whole blocks of stacks directly onto the past services. So extending these concepts, looking at more and more complex applications as you have in this particular space. Now, what is important is the ability to analyze and optimize. Once you're able to recognize the analytics-based applications or the data science stacks, now you need to come up with the optimization architecture, particularly looking at the past services, as Rafael was mentioning here, how they can map to Azure, how you can leverage the capability of the Azure to bring in the maximum benefits. And then, of course, doing the actual migration from looking at your stack as is and then looking at how it can actually migrate to a cloud-based stack where most of the past capabilities are leveraged and your servers or the VMs that are currently running some of the workloads can now directly be mapped onto the cloud PaaS capabilities. Now, the example here, as we see, is the ability not only to recognize and assess these stacks, particularly for analytics applications, then now you should be able to come up with an automated mechanisms by adding in the knowledge of some of these capabilities, particularly for newer forms of workloads, newer forms of stacks that you want to migrate, block them, and then add it to the knowledge base, and that actually can be leveraged and repeated over the process of migrating those to the cloud. Now, as far as the platforms for assessment and analysis, we cover Linux, the entire stream, as well as Windows servers, and also Unix. Now, in terms of lift and shift, directly as packaging them from the binaries, they may not be available as you're looking at cross-platform, but then the more intelligent form of migration, such as the smart shift as well as the pass shift, gives you the ability to kind of re-platform the tools automatically by looking at some of the workloads that exist, and they can be moved to the cloud. Ideally, when you qualify customers, you're looking at whether they have multiple applications or specific stacks that you actually want to leverage. And then the need for such cloud migration ability is actually required that as part of the qualification process, and then you can move those applications to the cloud. Now, with this, let me get to demonstrating this product. I'll give you some insights into how we do that and how it actually could be useful for you. And then after that, we'll come back to the slide deck. Here, what you see is an interface where you can bring your customers in, and then once you have provisioned your customer, this is an example of your customer interface. So there are multiple levels of hierarchy that this product supports. That you can come in as a service provider where you have your branded offering, and then now you provision multiple customers. Here's one example of the customer. Now there are multiple applications here that you can see. And this is the initial feasibility that you get. Here is one example analytics application that we put up here, a simpler case for demonstration. Now you look at the feasibility of the application, so you can actually have your own variations of clouds. If you have your private clouds, you can add that, and then you also have Azure here. And looking at this application, now you actually get to the different heat maps that actually shows you all the way from the network to the operating system, the different layers, just the hardware, the platform, and the application services, and then your normal hardware details. So this actually gives you the heat map that you can actually expand to look at detailed view. If there are cases which is beyond green, you look at other possibilities such as the yellow or red, mostly requiring retooling, replatforming that you need to do. But the summary gives you a pretty good idea about whether the application can migrate to the cloud or not. Now then, once you've looked at that, then you're going to look at more on the operations analysis aspect, where you will be looking at the mapping of past services, whether there are any recommendations that the tool is making. And then you can also come up with the different architecture options here. And then now, beyond the architecture options, you can actually look at some of the other capabilities, such as you can expand to the criteria that you would be utilizing more for business analysis, but considerations that actually are to be recorded and provided to your customer on different areas that they need to pay attention on before initiating the migration. And in addition to that, you can also look at the business analysis, where it actually gives you the costing of different factors that you can actually use here, and then utilize the capability for making the right decisions. So as you're looking at the analysis, mostly you're looking at the different areas of analysis that I just talked about, all the way from your application stack, operating system, network, getting all the recommendations. And then on the business aspect, you'll be looking at how this can be mapped so that you can actually utilize the cost factor analysis, making changes so that you can come up with the right model to present to your customer. Now, as you look at the cloud plans, there are several successive analysis that you can actually do such that you can create multiple plans that you can bring in. Here is you can create multiple cloud plans to do the different refinements that you can actually bring about. Here is one that is already created, and then now you can select a particular cloud for which you're doing your analysis, and that actually helps you in the process of refining further and further until you actually reach a point where you're able to make the recommendations to your customer. So here in this case, as you're looking at the analysis, you will be looking at different factors, such as the topology, coming up with the multiple variations in the product that you can actually see heat maps, different kinds of recommendations, or even different business factor analysis. Now that can be mapped to a specific cloud. Here it is mapped to Azure, and in Azure you're actually seeing more detail, the different workloads that are available that has been analyzed. And then when you're looking at the view for Azure, how all this kind of plays about from your network all the way to the stack here for the different services. Now you can go and look at more detailed operational analysis here, where now the past recommendations are much clearer to actually show that Azure, you can actually map some of the internal workloads as part of this application that actually can be mapped onto the different capabilities that are there on Azure as PaaS services. Now, with these recommendations, now you can also look at the different topologies that are actually being proposed for your customers. So here's a case that you can go with, okay, how can I redistribute my workloads so that they are on different servers? So what you see on orange here are the workloads, and then what you see internally are the servers that you can actually map against. Now workloads are being separated, and now you can actually connect them so that they can actually operate in a more scalable manner. Or if you want to bring in more redundancy as backup that you want to bring to the system, that you can actually do that as well by adding redundancy. So these are the architecture choices. You can clone the topology or come up with new topologies for migration as well. It's entirely up to you, and you can also do resizing of the servers or the VMs that you actually want to migrate to. This is a great tool where you can recommend to customers. It's not just the lift and shift. This actually brings in a more smarter way or a more intelligent way of migrating applications to the cloud, and also gives you better insights onto how the architectures can be planned, how architecture can be migrated, that you can actually show as the significant value in the entire process. Now, once you are done with the analysis, then you actually have the choice to actually make recommendations towards shift. So then how would the tool provide an automatic mechanism of migrating applications to the cloud? Now, you can come up with different choices as you're actually making. So here is a case where you have the topology. Now you've got the cost factor that you can analyze against. That gives you the ability to come up with different services costs that you can add. You can modify them, update these costs, and then if there is any retooling or other costs involved that you can actually add and present to your customer to say for different topology, what are the cost variations that you can actually make decisions on. Now, once you're done with a more refined analysis, you can create a shift plan, and here are the shift plans available. So let me pick one for the analytics application here. Here is a plan that is already created. Now, when you look at it, you've already analyzed the data. You've already looked at what choices you have for migration, and you want an easy setup to transition from the analysis straight to migration, and it shouldn't be more than a few clicks away for you. So the moment you create a shift plan, it automatically creates these 4 stages for you. So which means you probably have an Azure account already, which is pre-selected, or you can add as many different Azure accounts here for your cloud. And that is a cloud account that actually would be utilized for migration. And then now you're presented with your analyzed topology, and also the decisions that you have made with respect to what target topology that you want to migrate these workloads into. So you should be able to select your source as well as your destination. Now that you know that you have made these decisions based on certain factors, you can make the selection here. So once you made the selection, then you get to setting up of the machine. So here it is a very simple case that is being moved with just one architecture. And then now this is actually set up to do the automatic provisioning. And then now you get the entire recipe for migration, which is automatically created for you, which says how many VMs that need to be provisioned, and then where the agents needs to be installed for actually synchronization and migrating the workloads. And then all the different workload groups are given to you for migration. And now you have the ability to resequence these workloads during the process of migration, or there are setups that are already done, or you can get to the library where you can not only use what is there in the library, but also add to this library to actually create more and more and enhance the knowledge base that tells you not only the scripts for migration, but also the rules that you would utilize as well as the conditions for migration that actually can be leveraged and brought into the picture. Or you can even use your custom scripts for migration. So all this, once it is set up, now you're satisfied with the sequence, and then now you can actually initiate the migration. It goes through provisioning, and after provisioning, setting up of the core fundamental infrastructure groups, and then finally migrating the information, and then eventually migrating the data. Now, once all this is done, you have the ability to add your own connection scripts to reconnect if the topology changes, and then reconfigure the entire system. So you still have a little bit of effort on just configurations and reconnections that is required post-migration that you can actually initiate. So our objective is if we can automate the entire process of migration to an extent of about 80 to 90%, then all that you are doing is just configuring the application to make sure it actually works. So with this, I will stop here with the demonstration and then come back to the slide deck. Let's see if we can get the slide deck back up. So what we have seen here is the sequence within the Surpass, that how you can make this available as a service for your customer. And then once it is available as a service, the whole process of getting the application analyzed, assessed, and then eventually migrated onto the cloud through a single tool chain that you're able to utilize all the capability, and also the different forms of migration that you can utilize, and also a completely different approach towards how you assess and analyze application. That's actually tool completely integrated, provides you with the entire journey towards migrating to the cloud. Now, with that, we have a promotion that we're actually doing, working with Microsoft. So I would like to bring in Sean Jazeeri. He's our Senior Executive for Strategic Alliances. So he'll actually present the promotion offer for you so that you can get involved and start working with us. So handing it to Sean.
Thank you very much, Shafi. What we're offering with Microsoft support is to the global SIs that Microsoft invited to this seminar. If you send an email to the email at the bottom of the screen, analytics migration offer at corenttech.com, we will do a free scan and analysis with full reporting of an application that you choose. Bring us any application you want. We'll give you a full report on its cloudability, what your options are, how to optimize it, and so on, free of charge. This promotion will be available until the end of Microsoft fiscal year, which is June 30th, 2017. Thanks. I'll hand it back to Shafi.
Would you like me to open it up for Q&A, Sean or Shafi?
Yes, please do. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. It looks like we have a few questions. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we'll go ahead and take questions. Just a reminder, if you'd like to submit a question, please click on the messages button at the bottom of your screen, type your question into the white text box, and click send. Okay, it looks like we have a question here that says how to evaluate your tool.
I'll take that one. The best way is to set up a meeting with us where we'll go through the tool, give you a much more detailed demo. And then if you're still interested in evaluating it, we can set up a sandbox environment for you and your team. We'll walk you through how to use the sandbox environment, give you the sandbox environment for 2 to 4 weeks to actually scan and migrate your applications to get hands-on experience with the applications. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And we do have another question here. Are all Azure Analytics services supported in your tool?
Shafi, are you on?
Yes. So we've looked at multiple capability that is already available on Azure, and looking at HD Insight and also the data lake store and the data warehouse. So the subcomponents within that actually have a clear match. We've added multiple workloads, but we are continuously working with our partners to add more and more such workloads that actually can be mapped directly to get equivalences that we are currently establishing. So at this point, I would say that we've gone past the 50% mark, and we're looking at more capability that we are adding, and definitely would be involved with you if you can bring more workloads that we can actually match against and then add to the entire scheme of things into the knowledge base.
Great, thank you. And we have another question. What connectivity do we need to establish to connect my customers' servers with Surpass for scanning?
So as I showed earlier in the slide, that there are different mechanisms available. One is an agent-based scanning versus an agentless scanning. So when you look at the agent-based, where the customer's infrastructure needs to be exposed to the internet, where we can automatically move an agent in, scan for about a few minutes, and then get the data back, and that you can actually utilize for analysis. In many cases where there are security requirements, where there are stringent conditions that are being imposed by the IT teams, then we have an approach called the Vanguard, where there is one server on which the system is installed. And then now this can be taken in, you can cut the internet connection to the external world and then run a scan on the internal infrastructure. This is without an agent, doesn't install any agent on any of the servers. It'll do a complete network discovery, and after the discovery, start pulling all the different servers to actually get the data that is required, correlate that data so that now you can utilize it for further analysis.
Okay, and is there support for classification of data based on sensitivity?
Data based on sensitivity, is there any follow-up that I can actually get? What do you mean by sensitivity? So the person who has asked the question, can you type in what sensitivity means here?
Okay, we'll have them follow up. And can I provision accounts and manage users via APIs?
Yes, the entire platform is based on a complete API which is independent of the UI. Particularly if you are looking at integrating this platform into your zone, definitely we can talk about it. There are lots of APIs that are exposed for automatic provisioning and also managing user accounts. Yes, you can do that.
Okay. And let's see here. If I want to move analytic workloads of an off-premise Teradata DW appliance to Azure PaaS, how does the platform handle the basic Teradata query scripts? And is there an automated conversion mechanism available?
So I do not know the exact nature of your application, but if you have appliances and there are software workloads that are running. The system allows a complete library of workload migration plans. So which means now you can create a new plan, and for such workloads, our team will help you to build a plan that involves not only the migration scripts, but also any transformation that is required, including any checks that need to be performed. So we might have it in your case, or if not, we can build it very rapidly within a few days and then add it to the knowledge base. And then once it is there, based on the recognition of workloads on your appliance, it'll be able to match and then pull the right workload migration plan and then execute it automatically. So which means it could be a straight migration, a straight movement of data, or it could be a translation of data, remapping, and then moving to the target, which could be the service directly after provisioning.
Okay, great. And it looks like that's all of the questions. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any additional questions, feel free to type it in at this time. And in the meantime, do you guys have any closing remarks or any additional information?
I would like to get back to the sensitive nature of the data that was asked. I'm just going to assume that it is critical data that needs to be protected, probably in areas such as BFSI kind of applications where in banking or secure environments that you want to migrate data on. So the general statement that we have as we work with our partners is that every time that we actually migrate data, they're all through secure protocols, through SSH, as well as HTTPS as we migrate. In some cases, we support encryption of information before the migration happens. But fundamentally, we have got it validated by most of our partners that this information transfer is secure, and we are actually following the different standards for secure transmission of information from source to destination. So this probably covers the sensitive aspects of any data migration that happens. This is also true for workload migration as well. If you're actually picking a workload and moving from one place to the other, that's the case. Or in the smart methodology where we do installations where it is not required, but we do follow some security aspects within the process. Yeah. With that, I thank everyone for participating. For the closing remarks, pass it on to Rafael and Sean, if you can handle any closing remarks.
Yeah, thank you, Shafi. I think, as you saw from the presentation and the demo, I think it's pretty valuable to have tools such as this to industrialize the process of migrating IP. We only invited a set of strategic partners to this session because we've been engaged with you in conversations about your having hundreds of these solutions, and there's only a few strategic practices within each partner that have visibility and the willingness and the need to go and rehost and re-architect some of these solutions to run on Azure. I think, now it's up to us to, in light of these tools, identify which sets of IP are the ones that we can prioritize in order to start doing the analysis and those migrations. But I think, the use of the tools has a transformational impact on it because we've been engaged in several projects where it takes many, many months of meetings, alignment, and actual coding and code development effort just to migrate one solution. So we want to see if this approach can really give us agility there. And we invite you to reach out to us. There were several questions there that sounded as if, you have identified specific opportunities where this could be an option. Just reach out and let's have the conversation and understand, not only from the point of view of this current promotion offer, but also in the scope of the overall relationship between you and Microsoft, what can be done to accelerate the moving of that solution to the cloud. So we remain open to listen to your questions and feedback. And this is just another component for you to accelerate the process of bringing your IPN customers to the cloud. We've already seen how you are making use of Current. By the way, I didn't mention that. I didn't think it was mentioned that some of you are already using it, and that some of you are even somehow making it part of your service offerings. So in an innovative way, as your cloud modernization offering. So I think that's also a format that could be interesting, and we look forward to engaging you in those conversations as well. So with that, I wanted to thank everyone and remain open for your engagement in specific projects and questions in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rafael. Ladies and gentlemen, your feedback is important. We hope that you found today's information helpful. Please take a few minutes to let us know by completing a short survey. Please click on the messages button to find the link to the survey, and you can access the web conference recording via a link that will be delivered within 24 hours post-conference. And I'd like to extend a big thank you to our presenters, Rafael, Shafi, and Sean. This concludes today's web conference. You may now disconnect.